Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm sitting here editing this, and I wanted to throw this in here at the beginning because I think a lot of what Dani has to offer is incredible, and she has so much amazing advice. And that is actually one of the main reasons that she is a coach over in my Mighty Network. I haven't talked about it a whole lot lately, but I really think that it's worth bringing up, especially for this interview. So if you enjoy this conversation and these topics that we're talking about, you should check out my coaching group in my Mighty Network. There is a free area that you are absolutely welcome to go and join. But I'm going to be honest with you, we really don't have a lot of time to be in the free area. We are so busy working with other clients and doing other things that the free area, we can jump in there once in a while and give some advice. But the VIPs is really where you would be able to get Dani and I and the other coaches and moderators in my group, where you would really be able to get more time with us. Over in my Mighty Network, we go deeper. We go a lot deeper into these issues. We look for underlying causes to your symptoms, and we teach you how to get the very best results for yourself. So if you've been trying to make changes and nothing seems to be working with what you're doing, or if you were doing really, really well and then jumped or stepped off plan, this is a place where we can help you find your best path forward. We can help fine-tune your approach and then add other tools for you to use to find your success. This is a close-knit community of like-minded people, even though we have the whole spectrum from low carb to carnivore. The best money that I ever spent on myself was getting coached and learning how to get my mindset right. When you join my Mighty Network, you will immediately have access to all of the playbacks that we have done with the VIPs leading back to the beginning of the year, including our special guest speakers. We have 3 Zoom meetings a week, 2 on Monday, 1 on Thursday, where you can come and in person, you can ask your questions and get a direct answer. Everyone on my team is there to help point you in the right direction. Your questions also help others to learn as they progress along their own journey. Find the support that you need to succeed in your own way. Check out the link below for the VIPs. Now, without further ado, on to the interview.
With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. For those of you who do not know, this is Miss Dani Conway. Dani, go ahead and introduce yourself because it's been a little while since you've been on my channel. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dani Conway. I've been in practice as a functional medicine practitioner and functional nutritionist for over 15 years. I was 65 pounds overweight on a fat-free diet, tired of the yo-yo diets. Speaking about yo-yo diets, we might talk about that a little bit today. Tired of counting points, not getting anywhere, doing all kinds of fat-free, low-fat kind of approaches, and still being overweight, lots of cardio in the gym, and was just tired of the things that didn't work. Got down a path looking for something different, and fast forward a little bit, came across low carb, keto, carnivore, and I haven't looked back since. So in the process of that, also did a lot of functional medicine for myself. So really looking for the root cause of different things going on. I had a lot of hormone and gut issues. As time went on, I figured that I couldn't be the only female struggling without getting any answers, being told that your test results are normal, your blood work is normal. Yet I still had tons of symptoms and I still did not feel very well, especially being in my 20s. I didn't picture myself living the way that I felt for, until I was 40s, 50s, and now I'm 46, almost 46, and feel better than I did in my 20s. So that's a little bit about me and my story.
That's you in a nugget, a little bite-sized nugget. So, well, thank you for coming on to talk with me today. I have been feeling like this may be the new yo-yo diet. You said it, and I think we're just gonna run with that because I've seen lately, especially a lot of people, there is it's like shiny new syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
someone's doing this new thing. We should all do it with them. And I think that there is a time that, yes, we should try it, but maybe we should look at maybe the parameters, the specifications that should perhaps prompt us to make these changes. Because just jumping in because someone else is doing it, that seems to be kind of the new theme, is this person's doing it, let's all try it. And then it's disastrous for half of the people. It's been interesting. So what do you recommend when you talk to someone about changing their regimen? Do you say, give it a couple of days and let's try something new? Or is there a little bit more to it than that?
Yeah, so I think this is a really good topic to talk about because it is very tempting with all of the different recommendations that are out there. I definitely believe that one size does not fit all. And that doesn't mean that everything out there is wrong, right? It means that we have to find the right thing for our individual self. So, with that being said, the first thing is that if something you're doing is working, if just eating meat, if carnivore, if low carb with 75 grams of carbs, whatever version of low carb to zero carb is working for you, then continue doing it, right? I mean, I think that there's value in trying things and maybe like looking for like that upgrade or next level, or if you're trying to improve performance, things like that, and that type of thing. And then there's also kind of the scenario where if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I think you have two different, areas there that you can look at and see which one kind of fits best. But as far as changes, obviously, when something's not working, we don't want to keep doing it because that would be the definition of insanity, right? So, with that being said, I think that, making changes that seem feasible for your, let's just say, your lifestyle, the way that you, plan and, meal plan and meal prep and all that kind of stuff. So, if you're going to make a change, does it fit for what your schedule is, that kind of thing. Also, looking at, does it fit for what your complaints are? Obviously, if you're looking to make a change, maybe whatever you're doing isn't working. And so, with that being said, I think it's important to kind of look at, okay, what change am I going to make? How am I going to make it? What are my sort of first few steps to making that change in order to, get the intended desired results that we want to get. Now, does that mean that every change we make is going to be perfect? No, there's going to be adjustments that need to be made and that kind of thing. But I think that's a good kind of first step as far as, when you start to make those adjustments.
Yeah, just recently, I became guilty of that. I was doing something that was working. I was feeling better. And then I heard something and I kind of panicked a little bit. So I jumped in. And let me tell you, it did not go well. I ended up with a lot of pain that I'm still dealing with. It's weeks later and I'm still in pain where I had gotten rid of that pain before because I was really worried about causing myself harm in some other way, because there's so many opinions out there and there's so many people saying so many different things. How do we know who we should be listening to and who's right and who's wrong?
Yeah, so I think, I have a few things to say on that. And that first and foremost, when you decide to make a change, if you don't feel well, we'll just say if you don't feel well, whatever that looks like for you. In fact, someone recently shared something to me in my Instagram stories after I had posted, some questions about, eating higher fat. And this person had some type of a GI attack, gastritis type of an attack kind of thing. And said she stopped whatever she had started like right away. So that would be something like an extreme case where you change something and you have some type of a significant reaction. And that's like, you don't keep doing that. And it might sound silly that I'm saying, like, if you have this terrible reaction, don't continue it. But I will tell you, I have worked with plenty of women over the years that are, I'm just going to say, very desperate for weight loss, that they will try anything despite what and how their body responds or reacts. So it's very important that you kind of keep in the forefront of your mind of like, your well-being and physical pain and those things, that not just pushing through is in fact the answer. Because a lot of people will say, just push through this, just do this, just eat to your stuff, just do this and that, and it will be better on the other side. And that's not the case for everyone. So you have to be really cognizant with the choices in terms of what you're choosing to continue, what type of symptoms or reactions you have, and then make an evaluation from there as to whether or not continuing really is the right thing.
Yeah, I hear that so much. Just trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going in the wrong direction. And I did my little experiment for, I think it was 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And 3 weeks
Right.
later, I'm still recovering from it. Why is that? Why sometimes when we do something, when we have a bad reaction, why does it take us so much longer to recover from that?
So that has to do with, I believe, the underlying stuff going on that we might not be able to see at face value or on the surface. So when I talked earlier, my focus is getting to the root cause of the underlying hormone issues, digestive issues, different things that are going on. Again, we might not be able to see that. So eating a certain way for a short period of time can definitely start to alleviate some of those symptoms. But if we do something that trigger some type of reaction under the surface, some type of an autoimmune reaction, some type of underlying, hormone stressor that it causes, something like that, that's when you might have that response, and it takes your body a while to recover from that, because for whatever reason, whatever underlying factors are going on, what I call blocking factors, are creating a weakness in your system. And that's what takes a long time to kind of recover from that.
Okay, that makes sense because I've seen some people that they're far worse off when they try something and it doesn't work. And it's like, what could it really be that much damage? And I truly believe that most people do have a lot more going on inside their bodies than they realize. So many people think that it's just the food and this will just fix me. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that too.
Yeah, you can see I'm like, I'm gonna talk. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but I want to talk about this. So, and I think that we have to realize, like, you might start, 80/20 or carnivore or keto or low carb or whatever way of eating is an improvement and an upgrade from what you were doing before, and start to feel results right away. And that's amazing. That's great. That's what we want. Now, what we also have to remember is, for me, I mean, I was yo-yo dieting for 10 plus years before I got into low carb. So it took me over a year to lose my weight and then continue to have improvements after that. So my whole point that I'm trying to get at is that we don't necessarily have things going on for 5 minutes prior to going carnivore and then expecting, all of these results. So a lot of things that are happening under the surface that we don't see have been there for many years. I always say, like, someone doesn't just get diagnosed with diabetes. You have blood sugar dysregulation for 10 years prior to getting that diagnosis. So we have, insulin resistance. And then, obviously we're becoming less and less insulin sensitive, which is what we want to be. We don't want to be insulin resistant. And that happens over a long period of time. And then it takes a long period of time to kind of rebalance and re-regulate the system in order to get it to a point where you can do one thing, one change, and oh, this doesn't work, versus do one thing or make one change and you have 3 weeks of symptoms to deal with after the fact.
Yes. I lately I've been saying I think I'm like the 3%. I'm ridiculous in how sensitive I am, but there's other people who are as ridiculous as I am.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like that's really common with like underlying autoimmune stuff going on. Digestive issues. I had tons of digestive issues myself. So it was like, one wrong food, and it definitely, like, my body was like, yep, that wasn't right. So it's the same kind of concept.
And that's 100% true. that there's so many underlying things that we don't know about. And honestly, our regular doctors don't really know either, because they are notorious for looking at their standard tests. They see one marker. We could just take LDL, for example. They see LDL.
That's a great example.
And they go, you're going to have a heart attack and you're going to die. There's so much more to it than that. And that's kind of where the functional medicine aspect comes in, is that you don't just look at one marker. You look at a lot more than that. You knew that I had Lyme disease before anybody else did, just based on some of my markers. So
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think it's important, like, we are a whole person, right? The term holistic, whole person. We are not just an arm, a right arm, a left arm, a leg here and there. So we, think about, like, that's how I look at lab results. So with blood work, when I run blood work, I run a panel that has about 87 total markers on it. And even if one or two markers are off, I'm not making something or making an adjustment or giving someone something to do based on two markers. It's how everything on the test plays a role with each other. And oftentimes it's looking at multiple tests. And I always tell clients, I'm looking to make sure that all of the markers on all of the tests are pointing us in the same direction, because that's ultimately what should be happening. If someone has got multiple things going on, even if they have multiple things going on, the different imbalances that are showing up should potentially point us in the same direction depending on what their symptoms are. So it's important to realize that you're not just an LDL marker, you're not just a total cholesterol marker, you're honestly not even just a fasting glucose marker, because again, that fasting glucose marker is one, when you get it drawn from a lab, of course, context, is one snapshot of what you're seeing. So let's talk about what happens that morning that you're going to go to a lab. You might have slept worse because you might have anxiety about getting blood drawn. A lot of people don't like to get blood drawn. You might have anxiety because you're eating a, carnivore keto type diet, and your doctor doesn't necessarily approve of that. So despite the fact that you might not care if you have high cholesterol, what is the doctor going to say to you with your cholesterol panel? Did you fast for a certain amount of time to try to get that number to look a certain way? Like, there's so many things that could just play into a little bit of stress causing that fasting glucose marker that one day that you get it drawn to be out of balance. So with that one marker usually comes, and now, a lot of people are doing home testing. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they weren't. So just as, a side note kind of thing. But with that being said, is like, in context. So if we get a high number one day, I'll say, you know what, let's do some home testing if you're not, because I want to see, is this trending high? Is this trending low? Is this an anomaly? And that is, the case for a lot of different things where we have to look at, is it, one kidney marker is off. Well, what are the rest of the kidney markers doing? What are the liver markers doing? That tells us what the entire detoxification system is doing. So back to what you said, Amy, like with one marker, it's like, again, we're a whole person. We're not just an arm, right arm, left arm kind of thing.
And this is actually one of the biggest reasons that I don't tell people what supplements they should take. And I do not tell people what supplements I'm taking or what was recommended based on my own blood work, because we're all different people. And that can get really sketchy. And that, I think, is another aspect to this new yo-yo diet. I heard about this new supplement. Let's all jump in. Let's go take it, because it does something amazing for you. So do you see that a lot too?
Yeah. And actually, on that note, in fact, I just talked about this in my Instagram stories today, because yesterday I posted a screenshot of a Dutch test. And, this particular person had high estrogen and high cortisol. And so obviously we all know there's a lot of implications that can happen with weight loss, high cortisol, high estrogen, all of that. And in some of the questions that I got from that, the thing about any hormone levels, especially cortisol and sex hormones, is that what two people can present with the exact same symptoms. And when you actually test their lab work, and this goes for any type of blood work, this can go for not just a Dutch test, but any hormone testing, even GI testing, because what are the most common GI symptoms? bloating, constipation, gas, diarrhea, stomach aches, indigestion. But all those things can be culprits of different underlying causes. So that being said, two people can present with the same symptoms and labs can look completely different. So it's important that you don't, guess. You test, don't guess is my motto, as many know. And really kind of, yes, there's of course trying diet approaches and low carb keto carnivore and doing different things, making sure you're sleeping well. All of those things, of course, those things matter. But just in the context of what we're talking about with sort of like making sure you don't just try something and I call it like shooting darts in the dark and hoping that you hit the target board. It can be kind of a dangerous practice just to do that.
Yeah. And that I have a lot of people that message me and go, how much of this should I take? How much of that should I take? The only thing that I really recommend is like magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Like we that's a pretty safe one. Your body deals with the excess pretty well.
You pretty much know what's going to happen if you take too much magnesium.
Exactly. So that one is like, yeah, I'll recommend that one. But other than that, I actually talked earlier today on my live and I was like, someone asked on how to balance electrolytes. And I was like, even that is so individualized based on us. Like you can kind of have some parameters to work in. So why don't we go there for just a second? And then I think we'll probably wrap up because we've already covered quite a bit of stuff. So as a bonus for the yo-yo dieting, how do we balance our electrolytes? Because that's kind of an important thing.
Yeah, so I think this is even a tough one to give a specific answer in a video, but I'll try to do my best, just to be upfront. I think that we can have a lot of symptoms that someone could be struggling with when they're either overhydrated or dehydrated. And so a lot of the things about electrolytes is that symptoms can be the same if you have too much or too little. So if you're using a lot of electrolytes and you have excess symptoms, water retention, cramping, headaches, even nausea, low energy, then I would back off and, see what happens when you back off. Maybe come back down to 0 or a very small amount and see how you do. A lot of people do really well and realize that maybe they were over supplementing the electrolytes. And then on the flip side, I hear about a lot of people that are maybe taking electrolytes and I get, there's the unpopular opinion right here. Taking a lot of electrolytes and not drinking enough water on a daily basis to help flush the electrolytes into their system. So that can cause water retention, puffiness, things like that. And then you sort of have the, someone not drinking enough water. I'll just say I don't always agree with the whole drink only when you're thirsty thing, because I think that I do see a lot of dehydration on blood work, and that's another thing that's individual. So it's a loaded question, but hopefully that gives a little bit of sort of which direction people can go if they're kind of struggling with that.
And that's the hardest part. There is no answer for one size fits all. Everyone has to try and they have to do their own research, their own N=1 experiments, but doing it in a smart manner, not just following the crowd, not making this the new yo-yo diet, because we've been doing it for so long. We've been yo-yo dieting for so long. I think we tend to fall back into that habit. We've just kept it in the low carb space, but we're still yo-yo dieting. We're still jumping from one to the other. So hopefully that kind of puts it into perspective. But before we make a shift, before we jump in feet first, really sit back, take stock, look and decide, is this really going to benefit me? Is it really something I need to do? Or am I doing good? And let's not risk 3 weeks at least of negative side effects because I stepped out of my lane.
So yeah, and I think like in the context of yo-yo dieting, it's because weight is such a focus, and I get it. I mean, I was very, very desperate myself to lose weight when I was 65 pounds overweight and thought that I was doing everything possible and still not getting results. I think that we also kind of have to take a step back away from the weight and look at what other things that we can actually, also do other than just, being so obsessive about the food piece. And one of the things that I just don't see talked about enough in the context of insulin resistance, because we see such a common thread with insulin resistance because everyone's going low carb in order to kind of rebalance whatever's going on with that. And resistance training, exercise, movement is one of the best ways to improve that insulin sensitivity using larger muscles. And I just see a lot of sedentary, and of course, you should always do any movement based on your physical capability, based on what you can do, based on your level, all of that. But it is such an underutilized tool for both physical and mental health that I think that we really need to kind of refocus, not always on so much of the diet piece. And I'm just going to say, so many people are so concerned about, losing muscle when they're going to drop their amount of protein. And it's a valid concern. And I will say with that, one of the pieces of not losing muscle is doing resistance training in a progressive way so that you're building muscle and, doing that the correct way too. So we can't be concerned about losing muscle if we're not resistance training to begin with. So that's kind of my soapbox on that.
I love it. I always find some soapbox for Dani to climb up on every time. I think that covers about everything. I would love to say it's all about the food, but you're absolutely right. So much of our health can be impacted by supplements, exercise, implementation of even just getting your mindset right. That's one we didn't even touch on. We'll have to do that in another video because that.
I know. And we didn't talk about sleep either, because sleep and recovery play a huge role with all of that as well. So
a little teaser for next time. That's what that is.
We always have something more to talk about, right?
Exactly. So thank you so much for joining me today. And we, as always, will do this again.
Oh, wait. Okay. It comes up with a screen that says it's recording, so I had to get rid of that. All right, I'm good.
I'm like, nope. Okay, just kidding.
And then I knew that, once,
There we go. I just got a text. I had to answer it. I answered it.
So I was like, you're muted or something.
Because when I answer text on my computer, I mute it so you can't hear it go whoop. So anyways, okay. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
It's good. We can do it.
Oh my God. Okay, wait, I wanted to say something. What was I going to say?
Yes, that's. And that should pretty much conclude our entire video. I'm shocked my tie didn't join in too.
He's downstairs.
So am I, unfortunately. Oh, people are feeding. That's what's going on. And then I stop it. No, I don't end it. I stop it.